Hello everybody, and welcome to another road video. The title of this video is East Up Powell Valley from LaFollette to Harrogate and Cumberland Gap. I'm going to end this video at Cumberland Gap. When I started the video, I checked the time on my automobile clock, and it was 5 minutes until 3 o'clock, and my thermometer was reading 40 degrees. This is a school zone for the Campbell County Christian Academy. It's a beautiful day. Clear. We have a lot of clear days. They are forecasting an ice storm for tomorrow in this area, so it could be that we may be without electricity for a while. This is a beautiful highway, but it's a tragic highway. They've had a lot of accidents up here. Christmas Eve, I'm going to show you the spot. Christmas Eve, a family was hit head on. I don't know, they had some fatalities, but sad. It was right here. You could see the spot in the road there. Probably shouldn't have brought that up, but it's part of this road, and you can't deny the fact that this is a dangerous highway. And I have no earthly reason why. I just don't know why it is, but it is. I used to ride my bicycle up here. Sometimes I would ride this to Harrogate once or twice a week. And when the friends would come up, that road right there to the right goes over to Fincastle, which is the oldest community in this area. But back to this highway, there's been a lot of tragic accidents on this highway. This bank off to the left there is closed. They closed it. This is one of the prettiest spots on the face of the earth. And when you live around here, you go up this valley and sometimes you forget to look how pretty it is. And on a day like this, especially when I'm doing a video, I'm more conscious of the surroundings, and I'm trying to figure what the camera's seeing. And I try to look at it sometimes like I had never seen it before. And when you do that, you just see how the beauty of this place. It's beautiful. And that's the Cumberland Mountain Range to the left there. It goes all the way up into Virginia. And this is Powell Valley. And Powell Valley goes all the way up in through up there. When you cross Highway 25E, you can still stay on this highway, which most people have never traveled it. When you get to Harrogate, they either usually turn to the right and go to Tazewell, or turn left to go to Cumberland Gap or Middlesboro. But Highway 63 keeps going up that mountain range, beside that mountain range, and it's beautiful. I've traveled it a few times. You can go up there and then turn to the right and go over into Sneedville. That's where the Melungeons are from. And you can turn left and go over the mountain into Pennington Gap, and then that takes you up into Big Stone Gap, Virginia. And if you're local and you're watching this video and you've never traveled Highway 63 past Harrogate, you're missing a treat. You need to travel 63 on the other side of 25E. You will see, and also when you if you're going to Big Stone Gap, you can go up here to Cumberland Gap. I can't remember what the highway is. You'll see the highway because we get on it for a short period of time. But that goes up through Jonesville, Virginia, and Pennington Gap, and then you can go up into Big Stone Gap that way. But if you go up 63, you've got to go across the ridge to get over there in Pennington Gap. Most of the people that's lived around here most of their life, they know exactly what I'm talking about. All of these little communities up here have names. We passed one community I was going to tell you, but there's like Speedwell. Some people call it Speedwell. Some people call it Speedwell. Author. Just little communities up here on this highway. No, we're not there yet. That's Dokes Creek. So we'll be coming up on the Speedwell post office. So I'm not as far up the valley as I thought I was. Or am I? Now I'm lost. No, we're not to Speedwell. There's a road that goes to the right. We're no more than a mile from Norris Lake. And you can turn right on this road, goes over to the old 63, and if you turn right, you can go just a quarter of a mile and look to the left, and you'll see Norris Lake. The steeple of the church that you can see, that's Wellsprings Methodist Church. That church is over 100 years old. There's a logging concern there to the left, and there's a fishing shop there to the left. To the right over there is where they had the outdoor show. Some promoter came in and it was a flop. We're getting close to Claiborne County. We're in Campbell County. And Claiborne County has erected some beautiful signs welcoming you to Claiborne County. I wish Campbell County would do the same thing. And I've been seeing them on all the major roads that come into Claiborne County. I don't know who was behind that, but it's a good idea. So whoever did that, I compliment you, because your signs are pretty. Welcoming people to Claiborne County. You're going to see one of them coming up here on the right. Off to the left, a gentleman who was a professor. See it up there on the right, the sign, "Welcome to Claiborne County"? Isn't that impressive? Anyway, lived off to the left over there in an old farmhouse. He was a professor at Lincoln Memorial University at Harrogate. And he wrote the outdoor drama, which I played a part in that drama for 4 years, called Old Smoky. And he also dramatized The Trail of the Lonesome Pine that they present. I don't know if they still do it or not. It's been years since I've even thought about it. At Big Stone Gap, The Trail of the Lonesome Pines at Big Stone Gap. And he also dramatized the Stephen Foster story. His wife was also a professor at Lincoln Memorial University. She wrote a book called Civil War Cookbook. She autographed that book for me, and I cannot find that book. I've lost it somewhere in the moves that I've made. But both of them are deceased now. But I played Smiley Inman in that outdoor drama for 4 years. Some of the best fun I ever had. But like most things you do in a community, it was community service, so there was no pay. I think I made $45 in 4 years. I guess they felt sorry for me. This is Speedwell, or Speedwell. I call it Speedwell. It's the top of the hill up there. You turn right, and you go out into Union County. Now we're in Claiborne County now. There's one little spot of Union County that's cut off from the rest of Union County by Norris Lake. And the only way that you can get from one part of Union County to that little strip of Union County is on a little ferry boat or drive several miles around through Tazewell into this area. This is Speedwell. As you can see, it's beautiful up through here. It's a logging, no, that's not a logging truck. I think we passed one here in a minute, or we may already have. So, I keep remembering what I saw when I recorded the video, and when I come back in, I'm watching it the same as you're watching it, and I can't remember sometimes exactly what I saw or when I saw it. If that makes any sense. It probably doesn't. But I just hate to let this run. Of course, you know, it's like a radio. You can turn the radio off and and look at the video portion, which is probably what I'll do after I listen to it one time. But I only do this because, you know, I could place music behind it, but you have to go through all this copyright things. If I owned the music, my son has played guitar on some of my stuff, but on lengthy videos like this, it's just not worth the hassle to try to jump through the copyright hoops. So I just ramble. I hope I'm not hard to listen to. coming back from Harrogate when we would ride our bicycles. I loved these hills coming down because you could sprint them, and if the wind was blowing down this way to the west, we're going east, but if you were coming west and you had a tailwind, you could look down at your odometer and you'd be trucking along on a bicycle up in the 30s. And I have ridden my bicycle from Harrogate to LaFollette when the weather was like 98 degrees. I can't believe I did that. I wish I could do it again, but longevity catches up with you. But I can at least say I did it. I was noticing on Craigslist, I've got a Swin Tiempo. I thought the thing was almost worthless now, but evidently the prices of those things are increased. I couldn't believe what they were asking for those bicycles. I paid, when I purchased it, my wife purchased it for me for a birthday present in the early 80s, and I think she paid like $325 or $375 for it. Well, it's worth almost that today. It weighed new. That bicycle weighed about 23 or 24 pounds, I think. There's a piece of property on the left-hand side up here. Or have we passed it? I was talking about something else. But anyway, it must be 4,000 feet long, level. It would make a perfect place for landing small airplanes. And the proximity to Norris Lake, someone could come in there and open up a big bed and breakfast and advertise that for fly-ins. As they say, not none of me. I'm over all this entrepreneur stuff. Wish I hadn't been jabbering, because I'd like to have shown that to you. This, where that silo is up there, this guy has got a long line of solar panels, huge solar panels. I'd say that he gets quite a bit of his power from, let's see if we can see them. I don't pan this camera. I usually, yeah, you can see them over there. I just do these videos like, in fact, this camera is attached to my window on the passenger side. I tried to do this video the other day and I had my camera mounted out on the hood. And I don't have a professional camera. I just have an off-the-shelf camera. And when the viewing on this one particular camera, this is a co-op up here on the right, this particular camera, when the viewing screen closes, the camera cuts off. And the wind kept closing it, so I thought, well, I've got a contraption that has a couple of suction cups that I either attach to the hood of my car or attach to the window. And today, well, you can see, by this not being a professional camera, it picks up a lot of glare from the sun, and you can see it up there on the right-hand side. Okay, I think we're going to come up on that piece of property I was telling you about that would make a great fly-in airport. A grass strip for small airplanes, or anything that could land on a grass strip. Okay, it starts on the other side of that little road that goes down by that building. You can see it there. See how level it is? And I have never really measured it, but it takes a while. You'll see the end of it down here. But that would be an absolute perfect spot for people to fly in to go to Norris Lake and the area up here. And we're coming up on the end of it. I'm saying 4,000 feet, or if it's 3,000, that's plenty enough for small aircraft. You're going to be surprised if you have never seen Cumberland Gap. Cumberland Gap is one of the most famous cities in the United States due to the American Civil War. I guess it's because the land area of Cumberland Gap is kind of, I'm going to say, road-locked. There's not a lot of room there to do much. So Cumberland Gap is basically a livable community. There's some pretty homes there, but it's not commercialized. There's a couple, 3 restaurants, or 2 restaurants, and a craft shop, I think, and a post office. You'll see when we get there. I have done other videos. Look at the snow. We had a few warm days, but that area there to the right is probably shaded. They had a little more snow up here in Claiborne County than we had in Campbell County. And again, I'll say we are going east on Highway 63. There's a community up here called Author. It's off to the left because Highway 63 crosses and goes over to the left for a while, and then it goes over to the right. The old Highway 63. There's the mailman. We used to have time trials on our bicycles up this valley, and up here on the right is where we stopped. Can't remember how many miles up here. That used to be a service station on the right. That's where we stopped on our time trials. I started this video at 5 minutes before 3 o'clock. I noticed the temperature on my thermometer in the car. The outside temperature was 40 degrees. And I believe when we go through Harrogate, the temperature was 39 degrees. We've had some cold weather in the last 2 nights. It was about 17 degrees at my house last night. Was talking to a friend of mine earlier today, and he said that the weather service was predicting a winter storm watch for this area, and it could be that we have an ice storm. An ice storm is the worst thing you can have because the trees get loaded down and they fall over the power lines, and I'm hoping that we don't. If you're watching this video and you're listening to the news, you probably already know if we had that ice storm or not. And if we did, this is the area that they're talking about on the news. I think it's supposed to start out with ice and then turn to snow. On some of my earlier videos, I talked about, or I didn't talk, I put some text in the information portion of my video that we really don't, or the past few years, we haven't had a lot of snow. Last year, practically no snow in this area. And why that is, I do not know. We had a blizzard in March one year, and we had over 2 feet of snow. But that was an unusual occurrence. And when you have a snow in, this is Arthur right here, because we're going to go across the railroad. There's a railroad goes under that. But when you have that much snow in March, you know that it's not going to be long until it'll melt, because it's going to warm up. I also saw either 22 or 23 degrees below zero in this area one time. I hope that doesn't happen again. We are close to Harrogate. And if you'll start looking to the left, you'll see some new buildings at Lincoln Memorial University. They have started a medical school, and I predict that it'll probably grow into one of the finest medical schools anywhere in the nation. The Lincoln Memorial campus is beautiful, and one of these days I'm going to come up and do a road video and just drive in and around the campus and let you see it. We passed a school on the right hand side. That's called Livesey. It's a grammar school, I believe. We're getting real close to Harrogate. That's a walking trail. They have a beautiful park here in Harrogate. It's off to the left, but there's a walking trail. And there's a walking trail. I've never been on it. I saw a map of it in the national park at Cumberland Gap. And you can walk from Cumberland Gap over into Middlesboro. You may have heard of the organization Stand in the Gap. We had 8,000 people show up at Cumberland Gap in the Stand in the Gap March. This is Highway 25E that comes through Middlesboro, Kentucky. If you turn right, you'll go through Tazewell. You turn left on 25E at Tazewell and go across the mountain into Bean Station, and then you can go on up through Rogersville into Kingsport, or you can go to the right off of 25E, or no, 25E goes through Morristown. You turn left off of 25E to go to Rogersville. Beautiful country, especially when you get on the top of the mountain coming down into Bean Station. There's a restaurant up there. I saw they did a special, a guy who goes around and eats at different restaurants, and they have a pie called vinegar pie. I've never eaten it. In fact, I've never been in the restaurant, but they call it vinegar pie. So, and there's a new tunnel that goes through the mountain into Middlesboro. This is Harrogate, where Lincoln Memorial University is. A beautiful, beautiful university. And I don't pan my camera, so you'll just have to catch as much glimpse of it as you can. They've got a museum there, a museum about Abraham Lincoln. There's a story behind this university, and I won't go into it right now. But one of these days, I'll bring my camera and we'll take a trip through the campus there at LMU. You can see one of the buildings there to the left. A few years ago they built a bridge, a walking bridge across this road. We'll go under it just before. And Cumberland Gap is just a couple of miles from Harrogate. We'll go under this walking bridge. There's the museum to the left there. You can see the walking bridge off in the distance. Giving that guy some free advertisement on the back of his truck there. When I do these videos, I always wonder if someone will see themselves and send me a message and say, "Hey, that was me, you were behind." The odds of that are excuse me, slim to none. We're going under the walking bridge. When you do these long videos, like I was telling you, there's so much of a hassle when you're worrying about copyright and things like that, putting music behind it. I have decided on, if I can't get my son to write me some music, I'll just jabber. That's what it is, jabber. We're getting ready to exit. And this road that we're exiting on goes through Jonesboro, Virginia, Pennington Gap, and Big Stone Gap. That's Cumberland Gap you see off in the distance there. That's a famous place if you study the Civil War. And we're going to get over here in the left-hand lane. And we're going to turn by this station. We're going to go into the sun, so some of this is going to be washed out when we start down through here. This is the entrance to Cumberland Gap. There's a motel off to the right. I think those are apartment buildings we just passed. But there's one motel in downtown Cumberland Gap. Look at the snow. They had quite a bit of snow up here. And when they scraped the road and put it up next to that guardrail, it's going to take a while to melt, and it'll probably stay on until the next snowstorm. Because I have a feeling that we're going to have some pretty bad weather the remainder of the year, or the first part of the year 2013. And this is where we had Stand in the Gap. We had 8,000 people. And if you haven't seen the video that I have over there on my OCKTEBY account, there was a perfect cross in the clouds formed over this group of people. And I'm a believer, and I mean, it's, a cloud phenomenon is, but usually if you pick something out in a cloud, either you or two or three people see it, but all the 8,000 people saw it. And it was just a perfectly formed cross. Not, well, I don't even know how to describe what it was. You'll just have to go out and look at the video on OCKTEBY. This is downtown Cumberland Gap. There's the Cumberland Gap post office and the zip code. There's a little restaurant to the right that we ate there one time, or a couple of times. I don't know if this is an old building or if it's was built recently to look old. Now that church up there is old. Here shortly I'm going to show you the oldest building in Cumberland Gap, and it was the headquarters for the military in the Civil War. There's the Claiborne County school bus. Dropping off some of the people from school. And we pull out behind the bus, and I let him go on down there. I didn't want to get close to him. I kind of ease around here until you can see this church. But you can tell that Cumberland Gap is just a community, mainly just dwelling houses or places to live. You'll have to look over some of my East Tennessee phrases. I'm going to try to turn here until you can see this old building. This is the oldest building in Cumberland Gap. You can tell that it's old, but the sun is just perfectly right over the roof of that building. And then I turn back until you can see the stream, and it goes, and there's a water wheel. I guess they had a grist mill there at one time. Now you know what Cumberland Gap looks like. It's a small town. It's a famous town. But it's not commercialized. It's one of the few places, it's one of the few famous places that has not been commercialized. It's a unique place. I go out here and turn right and take you up to the national park. And you can see where some of the trails are. One of the trails they built, I guess because during heavy rains, there's quite a bit of water comes down through here. And they built a walking trail, a wooden trail. You can see it to the left, and when we come back down you can see it a little better. It starts right in there. Isn't that something? Goes all the way up through here. I have never walked down that. may come up here sometime and walk down through there and do a video. That would make a good one. And we're in the Park Service, the National Park. It's a national park. As you can tell, there's no one lives around here in this part, just down there in Cumberland Gap. This is fairly pristine. The road that used to go across into Middlesboro before the tunnel was built is no longer there. They pulled that road completely out. There's restrooms, picnic areas. Look how pretty that is, that ridge. We'll be going back into the sun here shortly. We'll be picking up some glare. I thought I had my windshield cleaned before I started, but after I got back I was driving down town and I happened to look and it was still dirty, so I didn't do a good job cleaning my windshield. You can see that walkway to the right, how it meanders around, and you can see that looks like a road though. Like I say, I've never walked any of these trails. I just been up here they have a Civil War enactment up here. I've been up to that. I did some videos there. And then the stand in the gap that they had, and then I've been up to this restaurant a few times. But the road to Middlesboro used to go through Cumberland Gap, and I can remember coming through here with my family going to Middlesboro. But now all the roads go around Cumberland Gap. So you don't go through Cumberland Gap to go anywhere. If you're in Cumberland Gap, you meant to come to Cumberland Gap. Because you don't go through here getting anywhere. Used to be a restaurant there where that business is. Starting to get sleepy. Or is it starting to get sleepy? I can remember, no, I'm not going to tell that story. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say it was something and not tell a story. Talking about talking a certain way, I can remember one time we had a big snowstorm in this area. And the radio station, I used to work in radio, and had called to get a road report, and this guy, I mean, he was, well, he was more, I don't know, he probably wasn't any more country than me, but anyway, he was talking about, he said, said there's some ice on the roads, and the bridges are pretty bad shape, and stuff like that. And I've used that word before myself. Stuff like that, which means stuff like that. We used to get together and laugh about it. Some of the word uses that we would use were comical, but normal for some of us. Of course, I was part of the Furnacetown boys. I grew up in a place they call Furnacetown. I tell you what, a great place to live. Beautiful. I wouldn't trade it for, well, I started to say anything, but I can't say that. But as you can see, it's a beautiful area. And please overlook my jabbering. I just wanted to put some audio on this thing until you wouldn't just be listening to nothing or heater noise in my car. Well, thank you very much for watching my video and have a good day. We'll see you. Bye-bye.